And tonight on Joy News Prime, more than 600 civil society organizations in education petition the IMF board demanding removal of what they say are restrictive conditionalities, forcing the government to cut expenditure in key sectors. We have details coming up shortly. Also, in this bulletin, management of Ghana Cocoa Board dismisses former President John Mahama's claim that the cocoa industry is collapsing, claiming the cocoa producer price has seen a significant increase in the past 3 years. Plus, President's cousin Gabi Asare-Okyere-Darko has sued the former chairman of the Interministerial Committee on Illegal Mining. We'll bring you details of that suit. And Vice President Dr. Bawumia charges new cadet officers of the Narcotics Control Commission not to allow themselves to be used by unpatriotic citizens to peddle drugs for their personal interest. My name is Ayisha Ibrahim. Let's stay for the details. The president's cousin, Gabi Asare-Okyere-Darko, has sued the former chairman of the Interministerial Committee on Illegal Mining. Ms. Okyere-Darko is claiming a sum of 10 million Ghana cedis as general damages, including aggravated or exemplary damages for defamation for libel uttered by the former minister. He also wants the former minister to render an apology and retraction of the statements against him. He again wants a perpetual injunction restraining the defendant, whether by himself, his servants, agents, or assignees, from repeating similar or other defamatory words against the plaintiff. I will share with you extract of that statement shortly, which comes on your screen, where Gabi Okyere-Darko is asking for a number of reliefs from the former interministerial chairman of the illegal mining. And so if you may have followed issues, you will know that there's a report that has been released by Professor Frimpong Boateng indicating that there are some politicians involved in illegal mining, popularly known as Galamsey. Gabi Okyere-Darko's name was mentioned in that report. He's being bantering with Professor Frimpong Boateng over this. Right now, he has sued and he wants some release, and he's asking for a some amount of money, 10 million Ghana cedis, to be paid to him. And he says the sum of 10 million cedis as general damages. And he says, what saddened me most was when Mr. Gabi Asare-Okyere-Darko called to defend a company that was actively destroying the environment, especially the forests and rivers often in the Apaprama and Krobo forest. So these are the statements from the report that was released by Frimpong Boateng, for which Gabi Okyere-Darko is demanding 10 million cedis. He says they are general damages, and it's also damages for defamation for libel uttered against him by the defendant. And the report continues to say, we were ready to dislodge imperial heritage from Krobo Forest when Mr. Gabi Asare-Okyere-Darko called to inform me that he was a lawyer for Heritage Imperial Limited, a company that was destroying the Krobo and Apaprama forest reserves, and in the process had also polluted and diverted the course of the river Ofin, as can be seen in the satellite images. I informed the president about the behavior of Mr. Gabi Asare-Okyere-Darko, and he promised to deal with it. I was expecting people such as Gabi Asare-Okyere-Darko, Captain Koda, and others like them who knew the president better and certainly had his interests and success at heart to support the fight against illegal mining. I was horrified to receive a telephone call from Mr. Okyere-Darko telling me he was a legal advisor to Mr. Donald Entwa and his Imperial Heritage Mining Company, and that the company should be allowed to work in the Krobo and Apaprama forest reserves. You called to tell me that your client had a valid mining license and all necessary permits. I told you that Heritage Imperial Company Limited did not possess documents permitting it to undertake active mining. That notwithstanding, through your intervention, the Chinese who were arrested were released by the task force. An apology for and retraction of the words complained of and particularized supra. So the second relief that Gabi is seeking is an apology and retraction of the words complained of And then he also wants a perpetual injunction restraining the defendant, whether by himself, his servants, agents, or assigns, from repeating similar or other defamatory words against the plaintiff. And the writ was issued by Bright Ochre Jacome Esquire, a Jacome and Company, PRUC. And so that's the suit against the former chairman of the Interministerial Tax Against Illegal Mining, Professor Frimpong Boateng. This is something we'll be following up and we'll be watching with keen eyes how it unfolds. Definitely will bring you all the details. Let's move on to other stories. The management of Cocoa Board has dismissed claims by former President John Mahama that the cocoa industry is collapsing. The management says, contrary to the former president's claims, the industry saw the highest ever cocoa production volume in the 2020-2021 season, adding that cocoa producer price has seen a significant increase in the past 3 years. In a press release dated April 27, Cocoa Board stated that Mr. Mahama's comments are not only misleading, but also detrimental to the cocoa industry. Here are extracts of that statement just coming right on your screens. And it talks a lot about how the cocoa industry has performed, contrary to the claims by former President Mahama. He says the attention of the management of Cocoa Board has been drawn to publications on certain media platforms citing statements made by former President John Mahama alluding to the collapse of Ghana's cocoa sector. The former president made these statements while touring the Western North, claiming the producer price and mismanagement have collapsed the cocoa sector. Mr. Mahama justified farmers giving their cocoa farms to illegal mining due to low remuneration. Now, management of Cocoa Board refused the notion of a collapsing cocoa industry. Such statements are misleading and detrimental to a vital sector like cocoa, which forms the foundation of Ghana's economy. We therefore wish to use the opportunity to make some clarifications. It says it is widely acknowledged that Galamsey operations pose a significant danger to our nation, and any attempt to justify or rationalize the conversation of a piece of land, especially a cocoa farm into Galamsey side like the former president sought to do, must be met with contempt. Now, it goes on to say more, and it says this menace has the potential to negate all the investments made by the government to modernize cocoa farming and improve productivity. It is crucial, therefore, that prominent figures in our society exercise caution when making public statements that rationalize cocoa farmers trading their farms for temporary monetary benefits through illegal mining. Management also wishes to place on record that former president's statements regarding the increase in cocoa producer prices every year during this administration is inaccurate, since the records available point to opposite. Specifically, there was no upward adjustment of the producer price of cocoa in 2012-2013 crop season. Similarly, the producer price of the preceding season was maintained for 2015-2016 crop season with no upward adjustment. And then it goes on to say within a 3-year period of a former president's administration, that's 2011, 2012, 2013 crop season, there was a total of 6% increase. It is important to note that the producer price is largely determined by international market price as well as other industry costs. We further wish to put on record and also assure the general public that cocoa industry is not collapsing as being portrayed by the former president. And definitely this is coming from the Foreign Public Affairs Department of the Cocoa Board. I've been joined by Manager of Corporate Affairs of the Ghana Cocoa Board, Fifi Boafo, for more. On what basis are you disputing the claims by former president when we have seen cocoa farmers complain that they have had to give their farms on a silver platter to illegal miners and how they are not receiving the desired profit from their produce? Our own documentary showing how PBC shares went down from 30.8% to 2016 to 8% currently. Is the cocoa industry indeed not collapsing?
Okay, thanks for the opportunity, Ayisha. First off, the point about former president's statement, I would like to address it just as he presented it. The former president made a statement to the effect that during his administration, we saw constant increase in the producer price of cocoa, And with a change in that arrangement, that is why the situation is what it is today. That's what we need to place on record. That is inaccurate, because the available data does not support that claim that under the previous administration there was constant increase in the producer price of cocoa. Hence, the change in that arrangement is what is making cocoa farmers abandon their cocoa farms for illegal mining. So that statement is inaccurate. And then, just as you read our statement, we have clearly demonstrated that that claim by the former president is inaccurate. The second point is the fact that even though, yes, some farmers may say that they have given their cocoa farms for illegal mining, that is not a position we should be happy about, and that is not a position we need to trumpet, because if you rationalize that activity, which is illegal, it only empowers people who are into that business to do more. And there's no reason for us as a people to empower people who are engaged in illegality. Galamsey is an illegal act. Your media house has consistently pushed the fact that as a people, there's the need for us to stop an illegality that is being perpetrated in our country. So if a high-profile personality in our society, a man who has following, a man who has respect and command a lot of following, is engaged in that activity, clearly it justifies the people who feel emboldened to do so. And we believe that there's the need for us to draw his attention to it, that, sir, where you are going to would only worsen our situation as a people, and there's the need for you to move away from that. You talked about the fact that PBC percentage that they are able to buy has gone down, and that it means that, well, cocoa industry is collapsing. I'm sorry to say that that is not the case. PBC is one of the 65 licensed buying companies in a very competitive industry where other companies are pushing to do better. The fact that other companies are pushing to do better, meaning that their shares are going down, does not mean that the industry is collapsing. It only means that other companies are doing well. These are all companies that have been registered by Ghana Cocoa Board to buy cocoa on behalf of the country. So if one company's shares have dropped and other companies are doing well, it does not in any way mean that they are not doing well.
But there certainly are challenges in the cocoa industry. We've heard cocoa farmers speak a lot more about how their conditions, I mean, their livelihood has been touched because they are not getting what they're supposed to get. What then is the situation if it's not collapsing? And how is the Cocoa Board fixing the problems, especially the plight of the cocoa farmer?
Ayisha, every organization, if you enter, you will find people who will tell you that their expectations are not being met. I've worked at multimedia before. I'm very sure that if you talk to staff of multimedia today, you will find those who say that their expectations are not being met and they expect better remuneration or better condition of service. It's human. Same can be the case for cocoa farmers who expect better remuneration from their business. The fact that you have someone expecting more or better remuneration cannot equate a position that the other expectation means the industry has collapsed. It cannot in any way be a basis for that conclusion. And that's what we are drawing attention to. Yes, the industry has its own set of challenges. There's the need for us to do better. One of the many challenges we face now is the cocoa farms that have been affected by cocoa swollen shoot viral disease. About 45% of the tree stock has been affected by the swollen shoot viral disease. At present, Cocoa Board is treating these farms and then rejuvenating the farms. About 60,000 currently has been treated. We are building a new stock of cocoa farms, meaning that we are dealing with the challenges. One of the major challenges the cocoa farmers have been facing is what they rely on when they go on retirement. The PNDC Law 81 of 1984 actually enjoins Cocoa Board to put in place a system that will provide farmers with a better retirement. As we speak, there is cocoa farmer pension scheme enrollment ongoing, making sure that cocoa farmers are able to retire on a decent salary, something they can fall on. Something is being done. Cocoa Board at present has done cocoa management system, collating the data of all cocoa farmers helping with the planning and execution of various interventions and programs that will improve the living standard of cocoa farmers. That is ongoing. These are clear examples of things being done to ensure that cocoa farmers get a better living standard and improved livelihood. So it's not a case that there are challenges, so it means that the industry has collapsed or is collapsing. Almost every industry, if you look at the times we find ourselves in, will have their own set of challenges. But it is not a good enough basis for us to say that the industry has collapsed or it is a justification for someone to engage in an illegal act.
I'm grateful for your time. Fifi Boafo, he's a corporate affairs manager of the Cocoa Board, and he's been explaining why he thinks the cocoa industry is not collapsing. Let's cross over to the Royal House Chapel, where the corporate worship is currently underway. My colleague, Mamisi Nyamiche Thompson, is there for us. Mamisi, what's going on at the Royal House Chapel? Hello, Mamisi.
Right, Ayisha, so if you can hear me, I'm currently at the Oil Dome at Royal House Chapel. Can you hear me, Ayisha?
Loud and clear, Mamisi.
Wonderful. So currently, we just finished a worship session. It started around 6 p.m. where there was a fierce prayer session, as every church service will start. And from there, we have the worship session shortly before the main acts, Emoji Music and Celestine Donko, will take the stage before the Apostle General Sam Kontri-Ankra also mounts the stage. And currently, people are still coming in from all the other places, as in different workplaces coming in. And of course, we know this is a joy corporate worship. And we're expecting as many as possible to drove it into the Oil Dome where we currently are. So Ayisha, behind me, if you can see, the service is ongoing, prayer is in session, and we'll soon get into the real program. But it's been fun since it started. People who are coming out with high expectations, expecting God to touch them in one way or the other. And so I'm also expecting that God will touch me in a very, wonderful way. So Ayisha, I know you're a Muslim, but you see, when you're done with the news, make your way here. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be spirit-filled, and it's going to be wonderful.
Well, Mamisi, if you say a prayer, say one for me. Definitely, it's a charged atmosphere, and definitely you will be touched as you expect from God. Let's move on to other stories. In one of the biggest oppositions to government's quest for an IMF bailout, a coalition of local and international civil society organizations operating in the education sector in Ghana have written to the board of the IMF demanding it to remove what they call brutal expenditure cuts in Ghana's basic education sector, arising from Ghana's bid to meet conditionalities for its extended credit facility application. Already, the school feeding program is suffering, with many caterers suspending cooking due to low payment and, in many cases, arrears dating back to several school terms. We'll speak to some of the CSOs involved in this shortly, but first, listen to my colleague Nanaya Boache Yadom interacting with some caterers in the Ashanti region on the school feeding program.
I think it's 1 out of thousands, because looking at Ashanti region, we are 600 or more. And if you see one person or two people cooking, it means that it's 1 out of 1,000. And I also believe that those people, they have advantage over the poor women, because they know how to get their money, and that is why they are comfortable doing it. Otherwise, I don't see why they should cook.
Have you been able to confront these women, and what was their reaction? What did they tell you?
Yes, personally, I asked one woman, and she told me she can't wait to... She's having some stuff there, like she has some beans and then some rice over there, and she wouldn't want to throw them away just because we are on strike, so she would rather cook for the children, and that is why she's cooking. Oh no, a lot of them, majority, about 98%, they are poor. Those who can be on their feet and cook, they are about 2% out of the 1,000. And so we believe that there is something going on. Otherwise, I don't see why you will cook at this time. You don't know how much they are going to pay you. If you cook this time, it means that we are going back to the third term, the 3 terms. Because we have last year third term 1, we've cooked the first term, and now this is the second term, making the 3 terms. So are we now going by 3 terms before one term is paid? No. And I don't think those women really understand what is going on. So we can't force them. Oh, but you went around, you said you saw 2 people. And so if you have a whole Ashanti region and only 2 people are cooking, then it's not significant. It's not significant at all. And we thank God that. But we are pleading with our leaders that they should give these poor women a listening ear, because they are bitter. They are in pain. I know that teachers go on strike and they give them a listening ear. Why are they refusing to give these poor women a listening ear? I believe elections are coming and they will still need these poor women to go down there and do those donkey work. And I'm afraid.
So for the 4 weeks that you've withdrawn your services, you've not been invited to any quarters to listen to what you have?
Nobody. Only threatening. If you don't cook, we'll take the screw. If you don't cook, we'll deduct it. And these are kind of words that we hear from them. But what pains me most is that those who are doing that, they are old people. They've enjoyed their life. And now they want to provoke the younger one and then go away. And I don't think they love even MPP. If they want MPP to be in power again, they will never treat these poor women this way. Because they are going to also treat them bad coming this election. They say it. And that is why some of us are voicing out for them to hear.
In Accra here, my colleague James Savage visited some schools and says the situation is not different. He's come through with this report.
So we've been to some 2 public schools in Accra, and what we have picked up is that all 2 schools, the caterers in all 2 schools have reported to work. In fact, and where we are right now, we may not be able to identify the school because the officials that we have been speaking with would want it to remain so for the fear of victimization, what they call victimization, since they have decided to defy the odds of the national directive. But they explained to me that the reason why they have decided to defy the odds is for the interest of the students. The indication we have is that they have reported to school and they are feeding the kids. As you can see, the school we are right now is serving the children banku with okra soup actually. And so that's what they are feeding the kids. In the other school we went, they would not allow us to take any form of interaction or visuals from what is happening. But the assurance they gave us is that the caterers are actually at work and feeding the children. We can interact with some of the children to know what they feel, whether they actually know the caterers are not supposed to be at work at all, and they are what they feel about this whole dish that they have been.
Please, yes.
You have heard that they are supposed to be on strike.
Yes.
But are they on strike?
No.
Why?
Please, because the food that the caterers are cooking for us is not good at all. Mm-hmm. They don't bring for us yam and cotton breast, no meat, no anything, no egg. And the bonku too, sometimes the soup is water. They are not cooking it well. The beans and the rest of the food too are not good at all. They should cook for us yam and cotton breast.
The beans, they like bringing beans, and the beans too is like water. There's no oil on top, there's no plantain, and the rice too, the stew is too like water. There's no some kinds of things in the stew, so I like it to be comfortable so that I can eat it, and I don't eat it always because of how they cook it.
So today what were you given?
I did not eat the food.
Why?
Because I've eaten, I've buy food and I've eaten. And because of how they do the food, I can't eat it.
But you know what they were supposed to eat today?
Yes.
What were they supposed to eat?
Today they ate banku. They don't bring jollof always. It's once a while. Then and the banku too, the soup is once a while that is thick.
Well, joining me via Zoom is the Deputy Country Representative of St. Ghana, Dr. Emmanuel Ayisha, on what they intend to do beyond the petition. Dr. Ayisha, first, government says its hands are tied due to the economic situation we find ourselves, and so every other sector has been affected. Why should the education sector be treated differently?
Thank you, my sister. In fact, that is why we are directing this statement straight to the IMF. It is because government's hands are tied, and it's rightly so. Because if you follow the trend, anytime we go into IMF program, for the 17 times, every time in the social sector that is affected, which includes the education sector and obviously the school feeding program, as you just showed to us. And so if government hands are tied because government needs to pay heed to IMF conditionalities, which actually points to huge cuts in expenditure, including education, then the right way is to actually talk to IMF to at least, if for nothing at all, try to prioritize basic education.
So what exactly do you seek with this petition?
So what we are seeking, as we rightly pointed out, is that we want to see an IMF program where instead of cutting down education expenditure, rather we seek to prioritize education expenditure so that the commitment of trying to have a minimum of 15% allocation of our national budget to education, that is the minimum threshold per the Global Partnership of Education threshold. I might interest you to know that our president was recently actually given the high office of promoting that benchmark of 15%. And so if our president has been given this high honors and our country is doing less, in fact, if you look at the medium-term expenditure framework for education, it points to the fact that this year, I mean, we were doing very well around 15%. This year, we are doing around 13%, and we are projected 2024, 2025, because of the IMF program, to do around 11% or so. The same with looking at education expenditure to GDP. That is also below the benchmark of 4%. And if you see the school feeding program budget in particular, we are not seeing any increment from this year to next year, and we are seeing a reduction going to 2025. And it's purely because of some of these IMF programming things that we need to basically look at. And so that is why we are calling on the IMF that, yes, if you make it as part of the condition that government do not cut public education, especially the primary education, obviously government is going to listen. Here is the case, rather the prescription is to cut. And then once that is the issue, that means that government will definitely need to cut that portion of our social sector.
Dr. Ayisha, shouldn't this petition be going to the government instead of the IMF, especially when you know that government can cut other sectors but decided not to? For instance, reducing the size of government and cutting government expenditure. Shouldn't you be directing this petition to government rather?
Yes, you know, we work as civil society. We do try to influence government policies. Rightly so, we've actually also spoken to government at length about this. But we thought that beyond government, because there are certain times it is dependent on what IMF says, that sometimes government also need to go by. And for that matter, in as much as we've been talking to government about it, I think last 2 weeks or so, African Education Watch and other partners actually had a program that was purely targeted at government. And so we thought that in our engagement with government, we should also be engaging with IMF. But the fact is, if you look at our history, I mean, in terms of IMF programming, in 2010, ActionAid and other people did some work that showed that when we were in the IMF program, we actually had to cut down education expenditure to the extent that even get fund payment delayed, and purely was because IMF actually has suggested some of these measures, and that is why we think that yes, we need to talk to government, which we've done and we continue to do. However, if the headmaster is in the house, it is important to talk to the headmaster, and this is why the IMF. I believe that once IMF makes it a part of condition precedent, there is no way that government will say that they are not going to abide by it, especially considering the current challenges that government finds itself in. That is why we are actually sending this to the IMF. But obviously, as we do that, government is also one key person that we need to engage.
I'm grateful for your time, Dr. Emmanuel Ayisha. He's Deputy Country Director of St. Ghana. We're still live on Joy News Prime. We're coming to you from our studios in Kokomlemle. We are on DTT because we're free to on DSTV channel 421 and GoTV channel 144. We'll take a break. When we return, we'll bring you more. Welcome back to Joy News Prime. To the rest of our story, the Electricity Company of Ghana has identified 28 institutions involved in power theft in the Ashanti region. The company has built some of the institutions who store power through direct power connections, bypasses, among others, to the tune of 1 million Ghana cedis as part of its revenue mobilization drive. Ohimenteri of our security desk has more.
The Ashanti region accounts for 1.2 billion Ghana cedis, representing 21% of the 5.7 billion Ghana cedis owed by electricity consumers nationwide. Power theft accounts for a chunk of the commercial losses of the power company. ECG says the majority of the power thefts are orchestrated by unscrupulous persons parading themselves as staff of the company. Last week, 21 persons were arrested at Bohon, Barakasi and Kunsu for power theft. Over 20 second cycle institutions have also been caught in the illegality. General Manager, Network Projects at Ashanti SBU, Frederick Bediako, in an exclusive interview with Joy News, names security, hospitality and health institutions as other worst culprits of power theft.
The work that we have done within the past 1 month, within the Agenda 2020, we have been able to identify about 28 institutions, ranging from the security to medical to hospitality industries, as well as some manufacturing industries, institutions that have done some bit of power theft, which we are in talks with through the Revenue Protection Unit to retrieve the energy that has been consumed and not paid for. So far, we have been able to bill about 1 million Ghana cedi. There's a major discussion that's going on to bill some other customers that would send the figure to way beyond 3 million Ghana cedi within Ashanti alone.
The Electricity Company of Ghana, through its Agenda 2020 program, is going after all power theft culprits. It will also ensure power consumed illegally is retrieved and perpetrators punished. Mr. Bediako cautions ECG customers against engaging unauthorized ECG staff.
Most of these things are also done by persons that are parading themselves as ECG representatives, but may not necessarily be ECG persons. This is because there are some contractors, some technical people that work within the ECG network that have also decided to clad themselves in the ECG logos and paraphernalia. We have had discussions with our contractors, and we have said that going forward, we've given a strong directive that going forward, every contractor is expected to build his or her own brand and not necessarily attach themselves to the ECG brand. So you would see that most of our contractors would have their logo, and then attached to it, you would see that there's an ECG logo attached to it, which we have said that it is giving a wrong impression to our customers out there. Customers should be very careful with who they deal with. The question would be, how do you differentiate between the ECG contractor or anybody that has a technical know-how to perform such services for you? The short code, which is the *226#. The fifth option, option 5, would give you the option to verify any person that is presenting himself as an ECG official.
From Kumasi, for Joy News, Oimenteria reporting.
So some health news. The Anopheles stephensi mosquito is thought to be responsible for an increase in malaria incidence in Djibouti at a time when the country was scheduled to be declared malaria-free. They may be found in relatively small numbers but are known to be efficient transmitters of malaria. In the last of our series on Anopheles stephensi, Joy News medical correspondent Dr. Netta Pasram looks at what makes the mosquito efficient in transmitting malaria parasite.
Hi there. So far in this series, we've learned that the peak biting times of the Anopheles stephensi mosquito is between
6 to 9 before you go to sleep.
We've also understood that it's able to withstand a range of temperatures.
About 3.4 degrees Celsius lower and higher than that of the Anopheles gambiae.
Additionally, we've learned that it's gaining resistance against many insecticides.
It has 29 insecticide-resistant genes.
The Anopheles stephensi mosquito has been found to be effective transmitters of the Plasmodium parasite, even though they may be found in small numbers.
There has been studies, specific experiments, where Anopheles gambiae has been compared to Anopheles stephensi, where they were all given the same blood meal containing the same amount of parasites, estimated parasites. You realize that when they were giving parasite from Africa, both of them delivered the same. The establishment of infection and production of oocysts that eventually will turn into sporozoa to invade the salivary gland were comparable. But when they were giving parasites from Asia, you realize that the Anopheles stephensi was able to develop more parasites, establish higher infections compared to that of the Anopheles gambiae, which means that per bite is capable of injecting more sporozoids compared to that of Anopheles gambiae. And if it behaves the same in our country, it means that even in low densities, they have the capacity to transmit more infectious dose of parasites.
Still, let's gear up and fight against the Anopheles stephensi mosquito and other mosquito species out there. Remember to sleep under insecticide-treated mosquito nets. Wear long clothing. Make use of insect repellents. And indoor residual spraying. For Joy News, Dr. Netta Pasram.
Vice President Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia has charged newly graduated cadet officers of the Narcotic Controls Commission, mandated by law to protect the country against drug trafficking and abuse, to be professional and not allow unpatriotic citizens to use them for their personal interests. According to Dr. Bawumia, Ghanaians are counting on the Commission to safeguard the borders against the influx of illegal drugs, reason the officers cannot afford to fail in executing their duties. He was speaking at the graduation parade of 78 cadet officers of the Narcotic Controls Commission in Asenfosu.
The Narcotic Control Commission, formerly Narcotic Control Board, was established in 1990 under Section 55 of the Narcotic Drugs Law, PNDC Law 236, under the Ministry of the Interior as the lead agency to coordinate all national activities to prevent drug trafficking and abuse in the country. Following series of stakeholder consultations, parliamentary scrutiny and procedures, the Narcotic Commission Act was finally passed by Parliament in March 2020, bringing into force the Narcotic Control Commission Act, Act 1019, to be in tandem with existing global drug law enforcement. The new law gives the Commission the legal backing to use arms and ammunition, arrest and prosecute offenders. Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Baumia, at the graduation parade of Basic Narcotic Cadet Course 7 at Asimfoso Immigration Service Academy and Training School in the Central Region, admonished the officers to remain professional and not allow unpatriotic citizens to influence them.
Must not be viewed as an easy path, because this is a very sensitive institution that requires commitment, integrity, and loyalty to Mother Ghana. The people of Ghana are depending on you to secure our borders, and you dare not fail them. Your service to Ghana must be your top priority, and it is critical that you uphold the oath of allegiance, oaths of office, and secrecy to help complement the Commission's mission and vision. And your graduation from this training school today signifies your readiness to serve. I urge you to be resolute, maintain discipline, resilience, and focus on your job description, as well as avoid engaging in activities that will not benefit your professional working life and has the potential to tarnish the image of our dear country. I also urge you to remain professional in all your responsibilities and avoid being influenced by unpatriotic individuals acting primarily in their own self-interest to combat illicit drug trafficking and related organized crime.
The Vice President has therefore reiterated government's commitment in retooling the security agencies in the country to make them efficient.
Ladies and gentlemen, government is putting in place measures and adequate resources in building rehabilitation centers to cater for people with substance use disorders. Trade facilitation is key to the development of every nation, and Ghana is no exception. In view of that, the government is in the process of procuring more K9 dogs to the Commission, for the Commission to enhance their operations at the Kotoka International Airport and other relevant operational areas to facilitate trade. The government will also continue to retool all security agencies, including the Narcotics Control Commission, to protect our communities, our borders, and in particular the youth who are vulnerable from the use and trade in illicit narcotics trafficking.
In all, 5 awards were given to the officers, with Roland Nikwe emerging Best in Drills. Best Physical Training female category went to Chelsea Baumia, with Ivan Whaler sweeping 2 awards, Best in Academics and overall Best Cadet Officer. So after this graduation of the officers from the Narcotic Control Commission, they will be posted to their various stations across the country, where they will serve for 1 year, and then they will be officially commissioned as officers. Reporting from the Immigration Academy and Training School here at Asimfoso in the Central Region, Samuel Mbura, Joy News.
And it's time for Showbiz. Beautiful Becky is here with the very latest. Hello.
Why did you have to pause before you introduced me?
I'm so excited.
I miss you on Prime.
You know,
you should come back. Please come back.
Sure, I'll be coming
But
back.
Ayisha, let me tell you about Stonebwoy. Finally, his much anticipated album, Fifth Dimension, is out. And we had a conversation with him, and he was talking about the album. And also, he spoke about the fact that this particular album has all the qualities to get Grammy.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Oh, definitely.
Well, yes, let's listen to Stonebwoy.
Homemade. This album is homemade, but it's overly international standard. Trust me.
A lot of people are already saying that this is actually, now Stonebwoy has given us the key to unlock the Grammy arena. Do you feel same with this Fifth Dimension?
Yes, it's possible. It's very, very, very possible because we have witnessed songs or albums which have gotten such credibilities or which have gotten the opportunity and entered such spaces. I myself have worked on the last Grammys. The last 2 Grammys, I worked on 3 albums that got in there, so we're not new to the standards. So I cannot be biased. This overly qualifies. So we are faithful that when the album does come out on the 28th, and we do the needful, it's going to be able to enter so many areas, you know, including maybe the Grammys. Yeah, and we have to select out of 60 songs for the album. So you can understand.
Select out of what?
60 songs. We're always recording.
Wow. Wow, 60 songs.
Okay, wish him luck.
Yeah, well, it's out. So what you're supposed to do, Ayisha, is go stream it and get me your favorite off that album. We'll tell Stonebwoy about it. But all roads, well, actually, to the Oil Dome. If you're not there, I don't know what you're doing. From here, we're going straight to the Oil Dome because the Joy Corporate Worship is happening. And I mean, MOG has already performed, so we're waiting for Celestine, Donko to perform. And so to end, you know, the whole show this evening, we have Celestine, Donko for our Friday karaoke. Okay. And Ayisha, you're going to be helping us.
That's how we wrap up the bulletin this evening. Musbao will be coming your way with sports, and at 8, Pakwesi Shandov will be coming with business. Do stay tuned for the rest of our programs.